So now we're done. I'm glad. I love how this is working. And I want to export it and get it out into some sort of video file that I can share with others. To do that, this is where CS4 is different than CS3. In CS4, you go File, and notice how this export is grayed out. This is a feature, so to speak, or a bug, depending on how you look at it, in all of the Adobe Premiere applications. To be able to export your video, you have to select the timeline you want to export. So you notice when I select a window, there's a gold outline that appears. Then if I go into the File window, I can hit Export, and I want to export media. In CS3, it gave you the option of like exporting to Media Encoder. Media now launches Media Encoder as a separate application, so you don't have to keep Premiere running all the time. It does have some nice advantages, but stuff we really won't get into in this podcast. My format allows me to change how I want this video file. Like, do I want it an AVI? Do I want it a QuickTime MOV file? Do I want it a Flash file, an FLV? Do I want it to be like an MPEG 2 or an MP4, an MPEG 4 file? It gives me quite a few different options. So since I'm on a PC and I want to also be able to share this with people who are on Macintosh or Mac computers, I want to select QuickTime. The preset is NTSC DV. That is perfectly fine. You could do some fancy cropping and whatnot in your exporting if you want to show only a certain section of the video. But for what we're doing, I'm not going to show you that because we don't need it. But if you go to this video tab, this is where you should try and get a little familiar. You want to set your quality up to 100% or pretty high. Make sure your lower field first. It should default to all of this, but every once in a while Premiere gets a little weird. And then just make sure that your audio is also going to be going and being exported with your video. It's just these two checkboxes because you can export audio without video and vice versa. So I'm happy with all of this. Let's click OK. It exports that information and then automatically launches Adobe Media Encoder. Okay, so Media Encoder has launched. Now, the main advantage of Media Encoder in CS4 is the ability to create a job queue or a batch list or whatever you want to call it. I can stack up a bunch of different jobs to be rendered overnight or exported overnight rather. Or if I'm going out to lunch, I can export, have just a list of things so that it will automatically work and I don't have to be here babysitting it. But you could go in and change any of the settings you just set up in Premiere. Right now, you could go in and change the preset, you could change the format, where it's saving to. But for what I'm doing, this is perfectly fine. So I just want to start the queue. And it will go through and encode the project, and depending on the type of project, how big the assets are, and whatnot, it may take several minutes, it may take several hours, it may take several seconds, as it just did right now. Now the status shows you that this completed without any errors. So I am all done with Media Encoder. If there was an error, you could click on it and it would give you a message as to what the error was. But that's the basics of Media Encoder. Is once you set your settings in Premiere to export, you just have to hit the Start Queue button and maybe change the where the file is going to be saved to.